Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. We're going to take a quick peek here, of course, at the specific area of resistance here for Bitcoin, some open interest indicators, as well as CryptoNet ETF inflow for Bitcoin, implying that we have further potential for upside here. However, Ethereum not looking so strong. We're going to double check all that stuff, of course. Be sure to stick around. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we jump into the backend data, we're going to quickly visit our polls here from earlier today. I asked on crypto, YouTube, and Twitter, essentially what your thoughts are if we can break this $113,000 mark. Majority of people are pretty bearish on YouTube, thinking that we're not going to see that happen this week. So let's go ahead and see if that is a possible reality for us by looking at the backend data and, of course, the charts, and just kind of recognize some important stuff here too. We're going to start with liquidation, just give you some perspective, and kind of touch on the reason why we may actually see the price go up for Bitcoin here, mainly because we have a lot more liquidations in longs versus shorts, basically a 3-to-1 ratio. So we've got a lot of people liquidated on longs. Oftentimes it's that natural market maker 101, where they just destroy a lot of short positions or long positions in either direction and then turn the price around. So from that perspective here, it seems a lot more sensible that we're going to see the price recover because there's been a lot of late longs that just got destroyed. Having said that, though, we got a positive for once here in the last 3 trading days. Finally, we get some positive net ETF inflow for Bitcoin. It's a very good sign. Granted, that was Sunday's ETF net inflow, but you can still see that there is an outflow for Ethereum, and Ethereum is not looking very strong right now. So just kind of from a bumper sticker or a bird's eye view right now, I would say I'm tentatively bullish on Bitcoin and tentatively bearish on Ethereum. But we're going to double check and make sure. Don't just take my word for it there, because there's a lot of due diligence that needs to happen between now and then with our, with what we're going to look at here to ensure that, that is still the case. All right. So once more, just that's the bumper sticker. Let's see if there's anything kind of telling here for Bitcoin. First of all, when we look at the amount of top traders, longs versus shorts, we're starting to see in the last 24 hours, we're seeing a lot more longs for top traders. We can also see they're using more margin and larger position sizing. So it shows more confidence in this range. As we start to bottom out, you start to see more volume increase in most cases. So it's usually a good sign here on the back end. What do they know that we don't? I'm not sure exactly, but as you can see, retail is starting to lose interest, where institutional traders and whale traders are essentially starting to kind of increase their position amount and or size. So for the most part, we're seeing the most amount of institutional traders is basically the medium amount of volume, kind of letting us know that we're in a position right now where, it's Monday through Friday, of course, we're seeing a lot more trading volume from institutions. All that being said, take a look here at Bitcoin. We want to recognize here for open interest, just kind of where we're at. Now, the overall sentiment here for open interest is at 111 to 113,000, is that kind of that range. So we're effectively in a type of bullish rectangle pattern, which I can show you on the charts here, but more specifically, it's easy to see here where the price works itself into a type of channel originating from the downside and continues to the upside. That's usually how this continuation pattern happens. All right. So just know that's kind of something that's brewing in the back end there. Liquidation in short delta is higher at 2 billion to the downside, implying we have more shorts than longs. But when we take here a look at liquidation in the relative, recent past, or kind of the consistency here in the last 7 days worth of trading, we can see 115,000 upwards of about 113. So rough estimate, 113 to 115 is that next area of liquidation, leading me to believe that we're probably more likely to go higher than lower for Bitcoin. Okay. So let's take a quick look here at the Bitcoin price action. And if you're not familiar too, you've probably seen the colors change on my screen. I'm trying to adjust that so that way people can see it a little more clearer too. So if it's distracting for you, I apologize. Trying some new things out, just trying to find a good fit for everyone, because the red and green from before was difficult to see for a lot of people. I got some comments there. So having said that, let's look at the daily time frame here for Bitcoin first and kind of set the tone, because we looked, on Sunday at the weekly time frame. We're still in good shape on the weekly and the 3-day. The daily time frame here is breaking bullish in a sense, and just to clarify, roll with me here, we are above the 20-day SMA but below the 50. So hypothetically, we close in the 111.5, 112K range. We're going to have more propensity to go higher. Right now, it's generally construed as a risky trade to try to take a long into this, mainly because we haven't truly found our bottom yet. We so far have a bearish engulfing candle today. So once more, closing at 111.5 or higher, I think, is a very important thing. But we are maintaining well within our point of control here on the macro, that we're right here at our support range. So hypothetically, we should continue higher because we're starting to pivot and hold and maintain this range. All that being said, we're still not under 50 in the RSI. So the truth is there's nothing hidden or amazing or awesome on the daily time frame. We're kind of at this like transition, and you don't generally like to, or I don't generally like to trade transitions because they can be higher risk. So we haven't fully transitioned bullish is what this is telling us here. And that's been pretty consistent over the last 24 to 48 hours, or more importantly, just majority of the last week's worth of trading has given us that indication that we haven't broken free from this descending trend line or the descending trend overall. Please keep in mind, you got to take that with a grain of salt, because the truth is we absolutely have broken the descending lower high and lower low pattern. That's an important early indication. It's just not a confirmation letting us know that we got to go balls to the wall to the long position to the upside and just go, no F's given and just kind of just go crazy, right? But we're above the Ichimoku cloud here. We have a fair value gap above the price. 4-hour time frame is still maintaining closer to 50 in the RSI while we did lose that level. I don't love to see that, and we're MACD diverging here. We're in a position where we're still maintaining right there at that point of control. So this is why being patient is important. If you wait for the price action to close at just say 111.5 or higher today, that would keep us above the cloud, that would keep us above our point of control. We'd be above all moving averages, the local ones here, the smaller moving averages, of course, and we'd be in a better shape to have some confidence taking along. Right now, we're peeking into the bearish side of things on a lower time frame divergence, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to take along in this situation just yet. I think it's a little premature. So that's kind of my thoughts there. What are yours? Why don't you comment below? Bitcoin is a tricky one here lately. It's been very, very hard to anticipate, but majority of the early signs here for a continuation higher are there. The backend data speaks higher of that too. So if we were to give a percentage here, we're 55% more likely to go higher. And those aren't the odds you like to you need to trade onto, right? So just some friendly advice. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. I described that correctly. Let's go ahead and move on to some of our other altcoins here. If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with Ethereum and kind of look at the backend data here for ETH. I can tell you right now, just bird's eye view based on ETF net outflow, consistently retesting this lower support range, there's a decent probability we see further continuation lower for Ethereum. We failed to reclaim that halfway point here in our bearish rectangle yesterday, and that 0.65, that rough estimate 4350 is a heavy amount of resistance there. It's pretty consistent with a likely retracement here. So let's talk about that here first. So looking at the back end liquidation data, starting with open interest, we can see 4376 is that local point of control, essentially that key level resistance here for ETH. So reclaiming that level would invalidate a potential short position, but in general, shorts make a lot more sense considering there's a lot more liquidation delta to the downside, and you're kind of joining the crowd. Majority of people are shorting ETH right now, and it makes perfect sense as to why they're doing it. Now we take a look here at the last 7 days worth of liquidation. We can see that we are getting very, very close to this lower range here of 4250. Heavy concentration at 4150. So this all this combined here gives us 3 out of 3 reasons from a back-end perspective that taking a long position with this coin is a bad idea, but also potentially a good idea if you consider shorting. Okay, so I don't usually love shorting the bottom or what feels like support, but the concept here is we're consistently retesting it. We're establishing lower highs and lower lows. All the back-end open interest liquidation data speaks to further downside, and it just makes sense with how overextended this coin is. Now, from a macro perspective, it's not in terrible shape. We talked about this yesterday here where it's got some early divergences, but no full-on confirmation. The point of control here is 4,300. So now that we're below that, it would seem sensible for a short position to be beneficial. All that said, we're losing 50 on the RSI, haven't truly reclaimed it. MACD is still diverging and stochastics trying to converge. But once more, you don't really want to trust stochastic swings. Honestly, they're much more beneficial on lower time frames. All that being said, though, what I'm getting at here is a 4-hour time frame. We're below all moving averages, our point of control, under 50 in the RSI, and MACD is soon to diverge. There's 9 out of 10 reasons on majority of time frames plus backend data, letting us know that taking along with ETH right now is a terrible idea. So if you do so, or maybe you're considering something else, let me know. Trust me on this. This is not a perfect situation here for anyone considering a long. I wish you good luck if you're considering a long position. All right, moving on to Solana. This coin actually kind of has it has some bearish type of patterns, but it also has some bullish type of convergences. So I'm still mostly bullish on Solana, and as a matter of fact, we took some nice profits from Solana. I think it was yesterday. As a matter of fact, that was what 45%. It took us 10 days to claim that, but once more, that's how swing trading works, folks. Sometimes you don't get profit immediately. We also claimed some nice profits, 36% off SUI, and you'll know, obviously, why we've been taking long positions with that coin here recently. It's been looking pretty strong. I still think we're going to see 360. Anyways, let's finish the conversation here with Solana and go from there. First things first, another reason why Solana looks super, super bullish is we got tons of open interest between 205 and 210 below the price, reinforcing support. One of the few coins here that has a long liquidation delta of upwards of about 1 to 2 billion. So that's good. We've got more people taking longs of this coin. From a liquidation perspective, there's not a ton of liquidation above the price. So truth is that's not a big incentivizing factor. And there's a lot of liquidation below 200, but I think the odds of seeing 200 or lower is pretty low at this point, considering how strong things are and how many resistances we've been broken, all right? Or we have broken. Now, we take a look here, though, at the overall circumstance here. This is a 4-hour time frame for Solana. We want to recognize that there is a type of pattern here letting us know that we're double topping. Now, double tops are not guaranteed, but they do increase the odds of reversal just based on the fact that the first time you test a resistance, which is essentially this 218 to 220 range, you're more likely to see the price pullback, which it kind of already has. It pulled back in the last 12 hours. But once more, that doesn't mean too much in the overall sense. So don't walk away from this saying that Crypto Cash told me to short Solana at 220 because there was a double top. That's not how you trade. That's not, the patterns are exactly that. They're early indications, or oftentimes patterns happen after everything's all said and done too. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, what we want to understand here specifically is that we are over 50 in the RSI. We are converging on the MACD. Stochastic is swinging up. We're over every single moving average. While the price could still pull back for Solana, the likelihood of it pulling back super hard is very low. The likelihood of it going higher is actually quite large, based on the simple fact that we have broken our local high here and retested as a new low. So if you see this guy here, retested there, we filled majority of our fair value gap here. And if we look at the overall sentiment too, we're still maintaining 50 plus on the RSI, and money flow index is above the RSI. Those are generally signs I like to look for when I take long positions. So do you want to take a long at 215 exactly? Maybe not, but you certainly don't want to take a short right now because the odds are against you if you're going to take a short. It's just a higher risk trade. The only thing that would cause Solana to pull back really hard right now is if Bitcoin did so too. And we've already discussed that Bitcoin is still looking slightly bullish versus that of Ethereum. Okay, so Bitcoin long, ETH short, Solana long. Those are kind of the three summaries here so far. Now, where you get in, where you get out is truly up to you, of course. If you want to, more specifics in that regard, I do take longs and shorts in all three of these coins. CryptoCash.tech is a site, link down below if you're curious about becoming a better trader and you want access to my trade signals. That being said, SUI, let's go ahead and pivot and talk about this guy here. I'm still bullish on SUI, and a lot of the reasons why is because we're seeing a ton of open interest between 340 and 350. While the price is kind of in that range right now, the likelihood of continuation higher is greater based on the simple fact that we are still ascending and making higher highs and higher lows. All right. We can also see liquidation delta here is approaching break even, but hasn't quite yet. So that's still a very bullish sign, very good sign. And there's more liquidation on the upside, upwards about 360 to 370. So while 360 did hold as a resistance here locally when we retested it, the likelihood of further upside is still higher because that level is it's still kind of an attractive range, okay? Let's talk about the price action too and kind of just recognize this here. First of all, we had a pretty significant sell-off here that created a fair value gap on the 4-hour time frame. So there's a lot of profits to be taken there, whereas the long holders need to be able to secure profits on those shorts or the inverse around, depending on if they were hedging, of course. Now, when we look at the fuller time frame here, the daily time frame, we want to recognize we have broken our descending trend line. Now, it depends on how you draw it out, of course. This was a smaller time frame descending trend, but if you're even to stretch it out a little bit and go with the most recent lower highs, we can see that we have essentially created basically a higher high at this point. We've broken our local point of control at 350. While the price action hasn't closed today on the daily just yet, we probably want to wait until we close at 345, 350 or higher. This is a very good early indication that we're shifting momentum on the daily time frame. MACD is also converging here, and we're above 50 in the RSI, mainly money flow index increasing. This tells us that the price action for this coin is considered to be not overbought or oversold, which is great. And it also tells us we have more money flowing into this coin than out of this coin, essentially implying the direction is up, right? Those are things we like to look for. 4-hour time frame also reflects we're above all moving averages, over 50 on the RSI, money flow index is above the price action, and even though we have a MACD divergence forming and the stochastic is swinging down, it's a very standard capitulation. It's not really anything worth noting as far as being super concerned with this. In other words, we're on the right side of the tracks on most cases here. So taking a long versus a short, it makes a lot more sense in this coin. And once more, there's a reason why we took a long in I think it was the 330, the low 330s, because it just made a lot of sense at the time that we're maintaining and breaking that local high structure and obviously breaking our tentative short-term descending trend. So those are just things we like to look for. What are your comments on SUI? Do you think it's bullish or are you bearish on it right now? Let's take a look here at XRP and kind of round this out here for the day and just double check a couple of things here. So first of all, back-end data for XRP is as follows, and I'm starting to become more bullish in this coin here, partially because we do see 295 here as that local area of open interest, reinforcing support. So the price, if we close at 295 or higher today, that would be a firm indication that we're likely to continue further out. Liquidation long delta is at 1 billion, which is extremely important. More liquidation to the upside between the current price point and 320. These are all firm indications, just like we see the inverse as well for Ethereum, that the price is going to go up for XRP. Having said that, though, looking at the daily time frame, it's not like a perfect scenario. We're starting to print somewhat of a doji candle. Those can be early reversal signs. We rejected obviously off this 303 point of control here. That's our macro point of control, and that is something that's important to recognize, that we got resistance at $3. Just it's the easy way to summarize it. $3 is a resistance, even though it's like 303, 305. It's still something to be mindful of. And then we look here at MACD, we're converging here nicely, stochastic swinging up, we're over 50 in the RSI, and the only thing we haven't reclaimed once more is that 50-day SMA, and of course that point of control. So those are very important. So I cannot say that I'm super bullish in this coin, but I can tell you that there's early indications that are beneficial. You combine that with the back-end liquidation data and open interest support at 295, I think we're going places here with this coin. The likelihood of further upside makes a tremendous amount more sense. Could it pull back still? Yeah, absolutely. But we have broken our descending trend line. We're over all moving averages. We're over 50 in the RSI. Money flow index is high. There's a lot of reasons here as to why the price should continue in the overall sense to the upward direction. So those are my thoughts there. I think it's still very viable here, okay? Other than that, last thing I want to just kind of mention, this is important. Some people are not taking advantage of this. If you have registered for 2bit, links down below, or links down below if you haven't yet, of course. But if you have, just make sure you take advantage of some of these offers here. It's a really easy, easy money. Now, if you love Bitunix, stick around there. They actually have a new promotion coming out here soon too, but just want to kind of mention this because there are some folks that were looking for some alternatives. They have really good compliance in Europe too as well, so maybe a good consideration for you if you are looking for another option. Otherwise, no matter how you look at it, I appreciate you being an amazing part of my life. Thanks so much again for liking the videos, commenting below, and we'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have yourself a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.